I would like to, as the third point, distinguish three value regimes. And this is a framing that we're using in the transition program that we're proposing here. So the first value regime we call cognitive capitalism. It's a value regime where the surplus value, as it were, is extracted from intellectual property. So the intellectual property is controlled by big companies, and products are sold at a huge markup because of this intellectual property protection. Now, if you look at the valuation of companies today, it's about one-fifth is the material assets and 4/5 is nobody really knows. And so my thesis would be that this value is the social cooperation that's going on around the value creation. So in cognitive capitalism, if you like, the mechanism, the media are still controlled by corporations, and therefore they can do this. But I think this is changing, and so therefore we have a new value regime which is emerging, which I call Netarchical Capitalism. Netarchical meaning the hierarchy of the network. And let's take Facebook as an example. An empty platform has no value. So who creates the value in Facebook? It's the user community. It's our exchanges, our sharing, our self-organization using those social media, which creates the attention capital, which is then sold by Facebook on the advertising market. So this is kind of the value regime in Facebook. And this is a general feature now, which is we have an exponential growth of use value creation by people themselves, peer production, but the monetization is exclusively done through these large proprietary platforms. But think about it. In cognitive capitalism, people are still paid. They are paid to produce value, to make a movie. In the new regime, people are not paid to create value. So here we have a value regime which is 100% hyper-exploitation if you look at it from the point of view of exchange value. So this is a general issue, and it's not just Facebook. Crowdsourcing, for example, crowd-working. There is a study by Trevor Schultz showing that the average wage of crowd-working in the United States is about $2 an hour. So way beyond the minimum wage. So this is a general issue. Peer-to-peer, in the context of financial capitalism, in the context of the control by these particular forces, by this particular ownership and governance regime, actually creates negative consequences. So yes, we are free to contribute, we are free to share, but we haven't democratized the means of monetization. So this is the key issue. So this is where we move to the third value regime. This is what we're proposing in Ecuador. A mature civic peer-to-peer economy where the value returns to the value creators. So how would this work? Let's look at the microeconomy of it, and then we move to the society as a whole. The microeconomy today is that people are increasingly contributing to common pools of knowledge, code, and design. So there's a commons. The value is deposited in the commons. So what I propose in the civic peer economy is to create cooperatives and ethical market entities. So it's the people who create the value in the commons, create their own market entities. And therefore, next to the accumulation of the commons, open input, participatory process, and commons-oriented output, you have a cooperative accumulation that helps sustain and create livelihoods for those commoners and peer producers. And finally, in this regime, what we see is that there are a new type of institutions, for benefit institutions, that empower and enable the cooperation. So you have the Wikimedia Foundation, Linux Foundation, and similar entities. Now let's, to conclude, move this regime to the macroeconomy. We would have a society with a transformed civil society that consists of commons. We would have a transformed market where the corporations are now ethical market entities. And we would have a transformed public authority, which I call the partner state, which enables and empowers social production. So this is the kind of the general image that we have of where we are going.